So here we are with the first part of how to make this rather gorgeous little piece, the Mummy Dearest tote. And I wanted to quickly go through with you the supplies you'll need and why you'll need them, because it's kind of important. And also, please bear in mind that this is actually our prototype. This is the first time we're making this kind of all the way through. Obviously, I've done a quick and dirty kind of mock-up to make sure it's all tickety-boo, but this is the first time, and I wanted to show you that, you know, sometimes you kind of work through things and you add a notch here and you take it away there. Of course, by the time you get yours, it'll be perfect and all done. So I'm going to start off with, I've got my interfacing here. That's this interfacing here, and this is by Pellon, and it's Peltex 71F, and it says here it's a single-sided fusible ultra firm stabilizer. When they say ultra firm, they're not kidding. It is really, really, really firm. And the reason I've used this is I wanted the bag to have quite a bit of stability. I mean, the whole point of having a bag that you're going to be using on a regular basis is it's tough, it, you know, stands up to wear. So a good interface like this is really, really key. Underneath it, which you don't see right now, but you will see closer later on, is my fabric. My fabric is actually a faux leather, and it's folded the right sides together, and there's a reason for that. And it's white. Of course it's white. Because I wanted a white bag, and that's what I'm going to have. So we're going to deal with the construction of the actual body on this one, and on another clip we're going to do the lining, and it's kind of important that you do the two things separately. So the supplies you need are obviously interfacing your fabric. You need something like this. I know it looks a bit weird. This is a plastic tapestry canvas, and I find it infinitely preferable to use this for the stiffening for a bag base than anything else. Even the proper acrylic bases that you can buy, not so good. Why? Because you're going to put your purse feet, you're going to feed those through here, and you've got lots of holes to do so, so it makes life just a lot easier. So we've got our purse feet, we've got a magnetic snap closure, which we may or may not use, we don't know yet, like I say, it's prototype. Obviously we have some leather needles. Leather needles are really, they don't have such a big slicey point, and you can't really use them for knits or for wovens, they're just for leather, real or faux, doesn't matter. We've got some glue, which we're going to use to glue back seam allowances when we need to make them flat. You don't always need it, but glue's a good idea to have when you're dealing with skins. Top stitching thread, really key. I want a nice top stitch on this, and you need the heavier, the thicker thread on this. So you'll see that later on how it works.
What brand have you got there, Trudy?
Brand of thread?
Yes.
That's a very good question. I have got Coats & Clark, is heavy top stitching thread.
Okay.
So heavy top stitching thread, if you can't get heavy top stitching thread that's to your taste, that's to your colours, get two of your normal one, put it on the two spindles and run them both through the needle together. You'll get the same effect. See, I know these things. Okay, and the usual things, you know, pen, pencil, ruler, pins, yada yada yada, all that stuff. So that's what you need. So we're going to start with this one. I'm going to be marking out my pattern pieces on the interfacing, and the reason I'm doing it on the interfacing is this is not woven. This is kind of, you know, a bonded fabric, which means it doesn't have any give at all. It's stable, it's going to stay where I put it, it's not going to stretch or distort or anything. I'm going to mark it on my interfacing, and I'm going to cut it out with about an inch or so around it, and then I'm going to apply it to my fabric, and I will show you what that looks like when I've done it. So now I've embarrassingly spent a few moments telling you about this really cool interface I'm going to use. It's very, very firm, it's very, very stiff, this is the stuff. I have realised that actually it's really not the right thing to do, and I will show you exactly what I mean. And this of course is why we make prototypes. This is why we make prototypes, and why you need to do a test swatch. Test swatch of your fabric, you know, whatever you're going to use for your actual item, and whatever interfacing you're going to use. And I actually started, I kind of interfaced half of it, and I thought, you know what, that's not good. Also, I ignored my own notes. I didn't follow my own instructions. How foolish is that? Not too foolish, because I was smart enough to stop when I realised that it was all going horribly wrong. So I want to show you what looks good and what doesn't look good, and you'll see why. Having said that, when I put the interfacing on, the correct interfacing on, what I did was I trimmed off from the top edges here, I trimmed off ½ an inch. And that's because I really, you know, I'm going to put it wrong sides together. I don't want the interfacing poking out when I kind of stitch it and trim it off. I don't want that happening. So on the interfacing only, I took off ½ an inch. Bear in mind, our seam allowance is a 3/8 of an inch, so it should be nicely tucked away. So let me show you what I've done, what I did that was really, really horrible, just so you can see why, you know, these things have to be tested. Okay, so this Let me make sure I'm holding it up for you properly. This is the bag almost sealed together. Now, there's our centre front seam like this. Our handles are here, and there's our side and back, side and back. We've just got one more set of these to attach. And once those are all attached, it's going to be seamed together through this centre seam here, straight through. And the reason that we do that last is because, I'm not sure if you can see this here, I've done some top stitching, edge stitching either side of the seam just to really reinforce it, make it really tough and strong. On this one I've done top stitching, on this one I haven't yet. So you can see the difference, it's not quite as kind of crisp looking. So I'm going to do the top stitching on either sides of those, add the other fronts, and or backs, whatever you want to call them, and then I will show you what it looks like before I do that final one seam. And that's really the actual body of the bag constructed. The fiddly, well, kind of fiddly, not that fiddly. The fiddly part comes when you're doing the final three things. You're putting your purse feet in, you're putting your facing on, and you're putting your kind of handle trim on. Not really major fiddly things, but it all have to be done nicely and neatly, and it'll give you a really good result. Oh, well, let's put it this way, I'm going to embarrass myself now. This is actually what I ended up with the heavy interfacing. Yeah. Seriously. I mean, first of all, I sewed it in the wrong way, and I sewed it the wrong way around. But secondly, when I put it on the table, Jeremy saw it and he says, "Oh my goodness, that looks like a suitcase." And I looked at it and I thought, you know, he has a point. It really does look like a suitcase. Which is at the point where I just thought, you know what, I'm going to use a different interfacing. So I kind of ripped it off and on the other pieces and recut. But yeah, definitely do a test swatch. Don't fall for it like I did with this one. Having said that, this Peltex 70F or 71F is going to be great if you want to do a really firm bag, like a kind of a firm satchel or something. It's going to be really good for it because it's kind of, you know, it's like that. It's really, really sturdy. So the interfacing I have used is the super crisp one from the lovely Pam Ernie. I'm hoping I can find the label. Oh, yes, there I can. It's Pro-Woven Super Crisp Fusible Interfacing from FashionSewingSupply.com. It's lovely. It gives it enough kind of body to be strong, but it keeps the kind of fluidity and the suppleness, which is really nice. So I've used that throughout on the body of the bag and on the facing of the bag, and it's all good. It's much more suitable for this style than the hardcore one. So, ta-da! Here it is. Here's the body of our bag. Where am I going? Oh, there we go. Okay, there's the body of our tote, kind of done. And you can see it's just that one seam all the way through that joins the two halves. Now, we have to do our finishing off, and they're going to be done in the following order. Purse bottom feet in, lining in, handles trimmed, and then of course we'll put our tassel on if we feel like doing it. So those are our next tasks. I'm going to show you how to do the purse bottom and the purse feet and kind of pull them in together. Okay, as we said before, tapestry canvas for our purse bottom. There is our base template. You will find it obviously in your pattern. What you need to do is plot one on the other. I would use that corner and that, that edge and that edge just to get straight edges. It just makes your life a lot easier. If you possibly can. Draw over it with pencil. It's going to be a pain in the rear. I'm not even sure if you can see it. No, it's going to be biro. I'm not going to end up drawing this tablecloth. Now the template is probably, I'm going to say, 1/8 of an inch smaller all round than the base of the bag should actually be. So it'll be snug, but it won't be tight, and you should be able to get it in purse, no problem. And of course, you want to mark, you'll find the markings on your pattern piece for the position of the purse feet on the side bottom part. So you need to basically make some markings on those. I'll show you mine in a moment. I'm pretty sure I have them. You need to make some markings from those to position them. Let's see if I can find them for you. Where are we? Where are you? Oh yes, okay. Okay, so they're here. You see those? Those are the marks for the purse feet, and I'm going to put a little hole through there shortly because once this goes on, I can kind of push the purse feet through the bottom and kind of open and hold it all in like that. So first, let's cut these puppies out. Oh, I hate cutting this stuff, but I must tell you, I find it infinitely preferable to the acrylic that you can get. I don't really like that much. I don't think it's particularly nice. I find this is much more, I don't know, kind of flexible, and it's stronger too. You know, it doesn't give that kind of, you know, rigid bottom base look that really, it's not very glamorous at all. Especially not for a tote like this that's quite kind of slouchy. Now, let's see if I can get the right corner. My best way to do corners is to fold that in half like that. And get my corner. I won't be able to fold it in half this way, of course, but hey, we do what we can. Right, now. Okay, so that's our base, that's our bag base. It's going to plop into the bottom like that. So I am now going to go ahead and I'm going to make some holes in the bottom of my bag, and I'm going to show you how, because you kind of turn it inside out and work on the outside, which is much, much easier. Let's face it, makes life a lot easier. Now this is how I normally do it. I make a little crisscross where it is, and then I go snip, snip, and I just do a little crisscross cut. So really tiny, really hardly there. And I do a little cut through it, just through obviously the interfacing and the fabric. It doesn't have to be big, it really doesn't, you don't want to. You can of course use an awl or skewer, I guess, just something proddy. It's not a very technical term, is it? It's like proddy. You know what I mean there, you really do. Okay. Okay, so purse feet. Now, I should warn you, I may have to wrestle these a little. That's okay. I will win because it's an inanimate object and I will always win. So the bag is put inside out, and here's your base that's going to go there. I've put little cuts in here. I'm hoping they've gone through okay. And here are your purse feet. I'm using round ones just because I felt like it. There's ones that are more kind of conical, like cone with the end cut off. And here's what they look like. You're going to have, that part will be on the outside, this part will be on the inside, and the base will be sandwiched between. So I'm going to attempt to put the outside bit through here. Let's see. Oh yeah, there we go. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay, I'm just going to pull that back for a moment because I don't want it to ping out again. Right, let's do all of these. Okay, so I've wrestled through and I have won. I've put the purse feet through the body of the bag. Now I'm going to centre up my base and feed it through, and let's see if I can show you how that's going to work. I'm really hoping this is kind of obvious for you to see. It may not be though. It may help me actually find the base. What do you think? Oh, there we go. Really good. Okay, so the best way to do this is to kind of halve it up like this, give it a pinch, both sides, so you can kind of see where that's meant to be, and then kind of match that up to the centre. You may find it easier to put a little bit of tape like this just to hold it, because of course you can't pin this because it is a faux skin and we do not want more holes in it than what need to be there. So let's just pin that, sorry, tape that there and tape that there. Now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking this is going to be a little bit tight, but you know what? Let's see how it goes. Maybe it won't, maybe it'll be just right. I mean, a lot of the times it depends on if your fabric gives or your fabric doesn't give. I mean, who knows? Okay, so here we're going to try this. Just lay this along your seam line and then find the kind of nearest, the most equitable. You can put it through two different ones like this. Let me just pull this down here. You do it like that. That's what it'll look like. So you want all four of those, and that's your purse feet put on. Alrighty, so now we put the purse feet on. There they are, purse feet, looking rather lovely. And I've just plopped the lining inside, and I'm going to show you it. I know I've got lots of disco-coloured paper clips, but hey, work with me. This is the inside here. So I'm just going to come in, Trudy, okay? So we've got some knives. We're going to lose your head, unfortunately, but... That's okay, I'm always losing my head. Okay, can you lift it up a little slightly? There we go, that's great, thank you. Okay, so we've got our little strap in here that's going to kind of close it up when you're wearing it. But I'm going to undo that, and then I will show you inside. So you can see everything's kind of cleaned off and it's all tucked away, and that's our lovely lining. Now, if you can come back to me, please, Jeremy. We're back. We're back. We're back. Fantastic. Okay. We're back with the Trudy. With the Trudy, all right. So here's what I'm going to do. I've just paper clipped this together so you can see the kind of shape. Now I'm going to glue this together, just little dots of glue, really as a holding measure, and I'm going to paper clip it together to dry. That's going to take maybe an hour, and that's okay. And then when it's done, we're going to come back and we're going to basically, roughly, with a very light pencil, kind of draw in our stitch line all the way around here. And you will see why this is, because we're going to stitch it and then we're going to trim it off. And it's kind of a one-time deal. There's no unpicking here, but it's okay because it's not that hard to do. And then we'll end up doing our handles, our handle trim, tassel, job done. So while glue is drying and things are waiting and everything, I thought I'd quickly show you how to do the tassel trim on this. It's a really cool trim. Tassels are very, very hot this year, but I have to say I like them whether they're hot or not. I just think tassels are the coolest thing ever. And you'll see lots and lots of these tutorials on Pinterest and on the internet and everything, but I thought I'd just show you our one because our one's just a little bit more fabulous. Now, you will need for this a piece of cord. Obviously, if you want to buy cord, you can, but I like to make it out the same fabric as the bag. And how I did this was, I got, where is it? Okay, I got 2 scrap pieces of my pleather and I glued them together, wrong side to wrong side. And when they were done, I then ran a line of top stitching down. And then I trimmed off either side of that. So this has actually got a line of top stitching all the way through it, and it'll hold it really, really nicely. It means it's much tougher and much stronger than it would be without, so that's always good. Alright, so you make your cord like that if you want to. You can always use a purchased one, not a problem. And you will find in the pattern a pattern for the fringe. This is the tassel, sorry. This is the tassel. Now the tassel is basically a block that measures, I think it's 7 by 5. And what you need to do is mark it out on the back of your fabric. Please do it on the back, please, it'll just make your life a lot easier. And we've done this little triangle bit here and you'll see why. Now I'm going to get Jeremy to come right in and kind of look down on here so you can see what we're going to do. Okay, so all we're going to do is this. I'm just going to tape this because normally I would actually sew it, but you will want to just see that, and I can undo it as well and show you. So for now, I'm just going to tape this down here. Okay, so there's my cord, and I'm going to do the usual thing of just rolling it over and over. Let me just pull this around this way because it's just easier for me to do that. Now, when you're doing this, you've got to run some glue down here because that just makes absolute sense. Keep it nice and tight, like this. And then, when my lovely 6-year-old has stopped banging on the office door, haha, and then you get to the end here. Now, the end, you're going to glue it, and then you are going to clip it or paper clip it somehow. Where's my paper clips? Oh, there we go.
I'm going up and down now with the camera.
I'm sorry, I'm holding it here. Okay, you're going to paper clip like this and let it dry, let all the glue dry. Now, you're going to end up with a pair of these, one on each end, and that's your tasseled cord. And I will show you later on how to put it on and how to tie it. Okay, so now we are almost completed with the bag, and it's really not as hard as you may think by looking at the sketch. And I should point out here that my top stitch on this is not as beautiful as I would normally make it, partly because I broke my double leather needle, and even after the drive of shame to Joanne's at like 9 o'clock at night, and they didn't have one either, I had to come back and grumpily use a single needle. So the top stitch is not beautiful, but having looked at a ready-to-wear bag that I've got that's actually quite expensive, it's actually no worse than that, so I'm all good with it. So we are now going to complete our bag as far as we can by putting the facing onto the body of the bag. I've already glued it around the edge, really just to kind of hold it. And here's what we need to be doing. And I'm going to get Jeremy to come right in tight so you can see exactly what we're going to do, because we have to mark it up now.
Awesome.
So here we are about to mark it up. Now you can see this is the top edge of the bag, and you can see that we've got kind of little bumps and dings and things have stretched and things have moved, and that's perfectly normal and perfectly okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take one of our trusty see-through rulers. I love these rulers, even though I always get confused as to which side is up. They're great because you can see through them. Plop that onto your centre seam and make sure it's kind of squared off with the side parts here and here, and you can then realistically mark off very lightly with a pencil roughly where you're going to stitch, and it needs to be approximately 3/8 of an inch down from the cut edge. Obviously if your cut edge is a bit wonky, it might be a bit more and a bit less, doesn't really matter. You just need to mark it, and that's what you're going to stitch through. You're going to stitch all the way around here, one circle, all the way around there, another, and there and there. And when you've stitched through all of those, I'm going to show you how we're going to trim it off, because it's easier if you stitch it and then cut it away rather than cut it away and stitch right next to the edge. You'll get a much easier time of it and you'll get a better result.
I have a question, miss.
Please, tell me your question.
If you were making the bag in black leather, would you
Yes.
use chalk to mark that line instead of
You know,
pencil?
Jeremy, that's an excellent question, I have to say.
Thank you.
You could use chalk, but you will get the silver light of the pencil as well if you use a lead pencil.
Oh, you would?
I mean, really, tailor's chalk, pencil, whatever works. Basically, nothing that's too permanent, nothing like one of these, which I've been using on the insides, which is fine because I'm not going to see it, but nothing like that. Something that's removable. I mean, this, if I draw on here, it will also erase like that.
Okay.
So that's all okay. But yes, for black, you could use white chalk. Good question, Jeremy.
Very good.
So now I've top stitched all the way through, and I'm going to get Jeremy to zoom in here and just have a little look. Even though the top edge is uneven, the stitching is not. And then I'm going to mark it. I'm going to mark it just over 1/8 of an inch over the top stitching. I will show you what I mean on the other side. Now, can you see that germ? Can you
I'm coming again. Sorry, I'm whizzing it out here like a drunk.
Like a fiddler's elbow, in and out.
You got it.
Okay, so you can see there's a little pencil mark just above the stitching. That's how much I'm going to mark all the way around, and when I trim it, I'm going to trim just inside it. And the truth is, if some of the pencil stays on, it doesn't matter, it'll erase off. But that will give me a neat finish. And my other tip for you here is this: when you start this stitching, start it in the middle of the straps, because this is going to be covered up. When this is done, it's going to be covered up with the handle trim. Now, I've done the stitching and I've trimmed off the edges. Not sure if you can see that there, but I have. And then I've folded the handles in half. And if you look very closely, you will see that the facing stops here. That's where you want to start your stitching when you fold these in half. So you fold them in half like this, wrong side to wrong side. And this is one of the few times when pins or wonky stitching doesn't matter, because you just need to kind of base these edges together. You can glue them if you want to, but you really need to stitch them together, because that stitching is going to be completely covered by your handle trim. And so I'm going to do that, and then I will show the handle trim, and we're going to do it in a similar way to this. We're going to actually cut it bigger than it needs to be, stitch it on nicely, and then trim off what we don't need. And it's the best way to give you a really accurate and really nice looking finish to your bag. Now, at the final hurdle. Okay, here's what we've got. We've got our handle trim wrapped around the raw edges of the handle. And now, of course, I've glued it. I've definitely glued it into position. I'm going to leave that for a good few hours to kind of go off and get really strong. And then I'm just going to edge stitch it around the edge here. And that's going to look really nice. I might trim it down, I might not. To be honest with you, I've cut it so neatly, I don't think I'm going to need to do so. So that's those two sitting there looking all lovely and glued and waiting to kind of go off. And once that's done, I'm going to top stitch it, and then I'll tie the tassels on and we're done.